Today's Focus Report takes us to Kenya, which has seen a tumultuous 5 weeks of political uncertainty and violence. First, the presidential election was held and a winner declared in August, before the Supreme Court then annulled the results, citing electoral irregularities. Then, the opposition candidate dropped out of the race and called on his supporters to boycott a rerun amid ongoing protests. Take two of that vote is slated for this Thursday, but doubts still linger as to whether enough's been done to ensure it will be free and fair this time around.
With their rallying cry, opposition supporters take to the streets of Kisumu, Raila Odinga's stronghold in western Kenya. They insist on an overhaul of the Electoral Commission, the body responsible for the failure of the election in August. They claim their victory was stolen and intend to boycott this week's new vote, citing the need for more changes. During these demos, clashes with police have become common.
We are not afraid because we are doing things within the law. That's what we know. The Constitution says very clearly that if you are displeased or whatever, you are allowed to demonstrate. So they are the people provoking the citizen. Otherwise, you could have been demonstrating peacefully.
The situation devolves quickly. Some demonstrators throw stones, and the police are ready with tear gas, rubber bullets, and riot trucks to disperse the crowds.
The dogs of Uhuru is trying to kill us.
Are trying to kill us, but we will tell them that we are also Kenyans, and we don't like, killing people like the police are killing people, are beating people, and we don't like that.
Police storm the alleyways and are now shooting live ammunition. Despite the fighting, the staff of this clinic must be present to treat the wounded. This man who has just arrived was beaten by the police. Like many others, he suffers from bruises and fractures. But here, only the slightest wounds can be treated. The more serious cases must be transferred to another hospital by ambulance. This time, it's a bullet wound that needs to be evacuated urgently. In the main hospital of the city, Tonio is taken care of. Despite the pain, he's now out of danger.
I just left my colleagues. When I was going back, then a policeman just came with a gun, shot me at the back.
The hospital is packed. Every room is taken up by an injured patient. The next day, hints of the clashes are still fresh as George and Raphael arrive to document the damage.
So there's masked the CCTV camera up there.
According to these neighborhood chiefs, police attacked and looted these shops. Then the protesters took over. This kind of confusion and chaos is increasingly common as the tension heats up. Days before the poll, these local leaders are unsure how to calm the situation. They believe it's gone beyond political differences. For them, members of the Luo tribe are specifically being targeted.
That there is a lot of tribalism at the moment, and I don't know who will stop this because it is growing. It's growing more than it was before. It is growing. I don't know how Kenya is going to be.
Here, political affiliation is historically divided along tribal lines. In Kenya's three largest cities, Kisumu, Nairobi, and Mombasa, voters typically support the opposition, and the majority voted for Odinga in August. The recent protest in the capital, Nairobi, drew the most attention. Protesters here were met with violent repression by police. In its latest report, Human Rights Watch documented at least 33 police killings during protests in Nairobi. According to the researcher behind it, deaths could be up to 67 around the country.
The government seems very keen not to have a repeat of what happened in 2007, 2008. And so the strategy has been to just be very heavy-handed and push down any kind of violence and using violence to do it.
Kenya's police flatly deny these findings, but admit that 4 people have been killed in October protests. At last week's holiday honoring heroes of independence, the president notably did not call on his forces to show restraint, instead instructing them to do what's necessary to make sure the election takes place.
For those who thrive in chaos and relish anarchy, your days are numbered. But my administration is ready to counter
For these supporters of the president, there's no doubt. The election will take place on October 26th. In their eyes, Odinga embodies a turbulent past and not a peaceful future.
The history of Raila Odinga is known from the time that we were young. And even now, we have been feeling about this name. It is a dangerous name.
On the eve of the polls, these divides threaten to tear Kenya apart. Supporters on both sides are hanging on their leader's every word. And an order from Odinga could bring the country to peace or yield more bloodshed.
Well, that focus report from Elodie Cousin and Bastien Renouy can be viewed once again in full on our website. It's